"Get out of my way, janitor," she snapped, pushing past the quiet man mopping the floors of West Point Military Academy. What she didn't know was that this janitor had trained more generals than she'd ever salute. 20 minutes later, when her commanding officer walked into the hallway, stopped dead in his tracks, and saluted the man with the mop, her world turned upside down. Lieutenant Sarah Chen was running late that morning. Her alarm hadn't gone off, her shower had taken too long, and her uniform buttons just wouldn't sit right. Being late at West Point carried a heavy price, and Sarah knew it all too well. As she hurried down the corridor, she spotted an elderly man moving slowly ahead of her. Gray coveralls, worn black boots, and a mop in his hand, just another typical maintenance worker. Sarah felt irritated. When she was in a rush, the last thing she needed was someone slowly cleaning in the middle of the hallway. "Get out of my way, janitor," she said with a sharp tone, shoving past him with her shoulder. The man said nothing. He simply stepped back, nodded slightly, and let Sarah pass. There was no anger in his eyes, no hurt either, just something. Something old that Sarah wouldn't have cared about, even if she'd noticed. Sarah rushed toward the barracks, her mind focused only on the punishment that awaited her for being late. Behind her, the man picked up his mop and continued cleaning, as if nothing had happened. Everyone at West Point knew his name, but nobody really knew him. On the records, he was listed as Robert Hayes Maintenance Personnel. He'd been working here for 3 years, arriving every morning at 05:30 and leaving at 1800. He was quiet, reliable, and never caused any trouble. As he walked through the academy's corridors, cadets would pass by without giving him a second glance. He was just part of the scenery, like the paintings on the walls, the marble floors, and the old man cleaning them, all of them in the same category, invisible and unimportant. But Robert Hayes had chosen to be invisible because being visible brought questions, and questions demanded answers. And the answers he could give weren't the kind that should be spoken within these academy walls. As the afternoon approached, Robert was cleaning the corridor outside the tactical classroom block. This was his favorite area because it was usually quiet. While classes were in session, the hallways remained empty, and he could work in peace. Just then, one of the classroom doors opened and students began filing out. Robert, out of habit, stepped against the wall and let them pass. Most didn't even look at him. Sarah Chen was among that group. She'd already forgotten the morning incident. As she discussed tactical strategies with her friends, she noticed Robert waiting in the corner of the corridor. "Oh, that's the janitor from this morning," she said, turning to her friend Lisa. "He works so slowly, it's like he spends the entire day just cleaning that one hallway." "Old guys are like that," Lisa replied. "He probably never learned military discipline." Sarah laughed. "Discipline? Look at his posture. It's like his spine fell out." Robert heard every word, but he didn't react. He just gripped his mop a little tighter and kept his eyes on the floor. He was used to this kind of talk. He'd been hearing the same things for 3 years. "I think someone should teach them proper behavior," Sarah said, raising her voice. "This is a military academy, not a vacation resort." Lisa tugged at her friend's arm. "Sarah, he can hear you." "I don't care. If he's going to work here, he should learn our standards." Robert looked up and met Sarah's eyes. There was still no anger in his gaze, but this time there was something different. Something familiar. The kind Sarah couldn't see but could feel. "Is there a problem?" Sarah asked in a challenging tone. Robert shook his head slowly. "No, ma'am, no problem." "Good, because everyone here needs to do their job properly." Robert quietly nodded and returned to his cleaning. Sarah walked away with her friends, feeling victorious, but at the other end of the corridor, someone had been watching the entire exchange. Colonel Marcus Thompson had known Robert for 30 years, and what he'd just witnessed made his stomach turn. Colonel Thompson slowly approached Robert. "Bob," he said in a low voice. Robert looked up. For the first time that day, a real expression appeared on his face. "Marcus. Everything okay?" Robert shrugged. "I'm used to it." "You shouldn't have to be." Colonel Thompson looked around, then moved closer to Robert. "You know it doesn't have to be this way. What way should it be? They should know who you are." Robert dipped his mop in the bucket. I don't want them to know. Why not? Because then come the questions. Questions bring answers. And answers. Robert stopped. You know. Colonel Thompson understood. Robert Hayes' story wasn't in the official records. It couldn't be. The jobs he'd done, the places he'd been, the decisions he'd made, all of it was classified, hidden, and meant to be forgotten. Still, the colonel said, "You deserve respect." Robert smiled, a bitter smile. "Respect is earned." "Marcus, and I already earned mine. Now I just want to be forgotten." Colonel Thompson wanted to say something but held back. It was Robert's choice, and he had to respect that choice. The next morning, Robert arrived at the same time as always. He cleaned the same corridors, maintained the same silence. Sarah Chen also passed by him the same way, this time not even looking at him. But something different was going to happen that day. That afternoon, the academy was expecting an important visit. High-ranking officers from the Pentagon were coming, and the entire academy was preparing. The corridors needed extra cleaning. Everything had to look perfect. Robert was doing his job with his usual care. As he cleaned the marble floor of the main lobby, he saw the visiting delegation arriving with Academy Superintendent General Williams. Among the group was a familiar face, General David Sterling. Robert had known him 25 years ago, in very different circumstances. Robert quickly lowered his head and gathered his cleaning supplies. He didn't want to be seen, but it was too late. "Robert! Robert Hayes!" The voice came from behind him. There was no way to escape. He slowly turned around. General Sterling was looking at him with disbelief in his eyes. "Robert, is that really you?" Everyone in the academy had stopped. A general talking to a janitor was an unusual situation. Robert quietly nodded. "General Sterling, what are you doing here?" "Working, sir." General Sterling looked around, then approached Robert. "Come here," he said in a low voice. They moved to a corner of the corridor. General Sterling's face showed mixed emotions. "Robert, aren't you Major General Robert Hayes?" "Used to be." "Used to be? What do you mean, used to be?" Robert took a breath. "I retired, David, 8 years ago. But you founded Delta Force. You wrote counterterrorism strategies. You briefed the president." "Yes, I did." "What are you doing now?" Robert lifted his mop. "Cleaning." General Sterling couldn't believe it. "Why?" "Because I want silence." "But Robert, you're a legend. The students need you. They should know who you are." "No, they shouldn't." "Why not?" Robert looked at General Sterling. There was weariness in his eyes. "Because legends die, David. But janitors just work." At that moment, Sarah Chen and her friends were passing by the other end of the corridor. When they saw Robert talking to a general, they were shocked. "What's that about?" Lisa whispered. "The janitor is talking to a general." Sarah moved closer, curious. She was trying to overhear the conversation. General Sterling put his hand on Robert's shoulder. "At least come to dinner tonight. Let's talk about old times." "Thanks, but no." "Robert, David, please. I'm not that man anymore." General Sterling understood, but his heart was breaking. At least let them know who you are." Robert noticed Sarah watching them. "No, it's better this way." General Sterling nodded and walked away. Robert picked up his mop and continued working. Sarah was in shock. What had she just witnessed? Why was a general talking to a janitor like that? At dinner that evening, Sarah discussed this with her friends. "Maybe he used to be a soldier," suggested Lisa. "Could be. But why would a general be so familiar with a former enlisted man?" "Maybe he was an officer," suggested another friend. Sarah thought about it. "I'm going to ask him tomorrow." The next morning, Sarah found Robert in the corridor. This time, she tried a different approach. "I am sorry," she said. "I was rude to you yesterday." Robert looked up. "It's fine. I'm curious. That general yesterday knew you." Robert continued cleaning. "Yes." "Why?" "Old friend." "Were you in the military too?" Robert stopped. He looked at Sarah. "Used to be." "What was your rank?" Robert was silent for a long time. Then he picked up his mop and started to walk away. "Wait," Sarah called out. "Please tell me." Robert stopped but didn't turn around. "Some things should stay in the past, Lieutenant. But you're a young officer. Focus. Learn. Grow. The past will drag you down." These words surprised Sarah. The janitor's way of speaking had suddenly changed, more serious, more authoritative. "Won't you tell me who you are?" Robert turned around. For the first time, there was sternness in his eyes. "Who do you think I am?" Sarah took a step back. I don't know." "Good. Keep it that way." Robert walked away, leaving Sarah standing there, confused and watching him go. That evening, Sarah went to the computer lab. She began searching through West Point's alumni records. She searched for Robert Hayes, but found nothing. Then she checked military records. Still nothing. This seemed strange. If the man really had been a soldier, his name should have appeared somewhere in the records. The following week, Sarah had a tactics class. The colonel teaching it was discussing the history of special forces. The founding of Delta Force, the colonel said, was a special unit needed in the 1970s. Its founder was a legendary officer, Major General Robert Hayes. Sarah's blood ran cold. She'd heard the name Robert Hayes. The janitor's name was also Robert Hayes. After class, Sarah approached the colonel. "Sir, the General Hayes you just mentioned, is he still alive?" "I don't know. He disappeared after retirement. He'd worked on very classified operations. I think he preferred silence." "Is there any more information about him?" The colonel thought. "Actually, there might be a photo in the old records, but most of it is classified." Sarah couldn't sleep that night. Could it really be possible? Could the man cleaning at West Point be the founder of Delta Force? The next morning, she found Robert. This time, she asked a different question. "What do you know about Delta Force?" Robert dropped his mop. He looked at Sarah for a long time. "Why are you asking?" "I'm curious." Dangerous curiosity. "Why?" Robert looked around. No one was there. "Because some truth change people." "I want to change." "No. You want to grow. Those are two different things." Sarah insisted. "Please tell me." Robert took a long breath. Delta Force was a special unit, made up of people who did the Sarah's mouth fell open. You're Major General Robert Hayes?" "Used to be." But you're a legend. Why are you cleaning here?" Robert picked up his mop again. "Because legends are exhausting, Sarah. Cleaning is peaceful." Sarah couldn't believe it. "The students should know who you are." "No, they shouldn't." "Why not?" "Because they come here to learn, not to see me." At that moment, voices came from the other end of the corridor. General Williams was approaching with a group of officers and students. Robert quickly gathered his cleaning supplies. "Go," he told Sarah. "But go." Sarah had to leave, but continued watching from a distance. As the group passed by Robert, General Williams stopped. "Robert," he said, "everything all right?" "Yes, sir." General Williams nodded and continued with his group. But Sarah noticed the way the general looked at Robert. This wasn't an ordinary look. That evening, Sarah found Colonel Thompson. "Sir, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." "The maintenance worker Robert Hayes, is he really—" Colonel Thompson stopped Sarah. "Sarah, drop this subject." "But sir—" "That's an order." Sarah was surprised. "Why?" "Because some people deserve peace." That night, Sarah thought deeply. Everyone seemed to know Robert's identity, but no one was talking about it. Why? The following week, Sarah's group participated in a tactical exercise. During the simulation, Sarah's team made a wrong decision, and the mission failed. After the exercise, Sarah was frustrated and demoralized. She saw Robert in the corridor. "What kind of soldier were you, sir?" she asked. Robert stopped. "What do you mean?" What kind of commander were you?" Robert thought for a long time. "The kind who learned from mistakes." "I made a mistake today." "I know." "Did you see?" "No, but it shows on your face." Sarah laughed. "Do you notice everything?" "Old habit." "Do you have any advice for me?" Robert put down his mop and turned to Sarah. Don't forget your mistakes, but don't carry them either. Learn and let go. Is it that simple? No, it's very hard, but necessary. Sarah nodded. Thank you. Robert started cleaning again, but Sarah didn't leave. Can I ask one more thing? Ask. Why are you helping me? Robert stopped. Because you're open to learning. Aren't others?
Most aren't. They're just focused on passing.
Would you help them, Hugh? Robert smiled. Always did. From that moment on, a quiet friendship began between Sarah and Robert. Sarah would greet Robert every morning, and he would nod in return. But one day, everything changed. As Sarah was walking down the corridor with her friend Mike, they passed by Robert. Mike made a mocking comment about Robert. This guy really works slowly. I guess that's what old age does to you. Sarah stopped Mike. Show him respect. Why? He's just a janitor. He's not just a janitor. Oh yeah? Then what is he? Sarah looked at Robert. Robert signaled with his head, telling her not to speak. He just deserves respect. Mike laughed. You really value this old guy. Sarah got angry. Is that a problem? No, but it's funny. At that moment, General Sterling came from the other end of the corridor. When he saw Robert, he headed straight for him. Robert, he called out. I need to talk to you. Everyone stopped. The general was talking to the janitor again. General Sterling approached Robert. There's an offer from the Pentagon. Robert shook his head. Not interested. Don't decide without listening. David, my answer is, Senator Williams wants to see you. Robert stopped. Tom Williams? Yes. Sarah turned to Mike. Senator Williams? Mike couldn't believe it. Why would a senator want to talk to a janitor? General Sterling continued. He wants you as an advisor on the Counterterrorism Commission. Robert shook his head. No. Robert, the country needs you. The country managed 30 years without me. The world has changed. There are new threats. Robert picked up his mop. There are new people, too. Your experience stays in the past. General Sterling insisted. At least think about it. Robert noticed Sarah watching them. Nothing to think about. General Sterling nodded and walked away. Robert continued his work. Mike turned to Sarah. Do you know who this guy is? Sarah lowered her voice. I do. Who is he? Sarah looked around. I can't tell you. Why not? Because he doesn't want me to. Mike didn't understand but didn't press further. That evening, Sarah found Robert. You should accept the offer, she said. Robert looked up. Why? Because the country needs you.
You think so too? Yes, Robert laughed. Sarah, you're a very young officer. You're focused on saving the world. Is that wrong? No, but I already did my part. What if there's more work to be done? Robert stopped. There's always more work to be done, but there are new people to do it. They're not like you. How do you know? Sarah thought. Because I read about what you did. What did you read? The history of Delta Force, counterterrorism strategies, your operations. Robert was surprised. Where did you find those? In the library, in classified files. How did you get access to those? Sarah smiled. I'm very persistent. Robert shook his head. Dangerous trait. You had it too. Yes, and you can see where it got me. Sarah became serious. It brought you here, to train the next generation of officers. I'm not an instructor. You are. You've taught me a lot. What have I taught you? Respect, humility, and that real strength comes from silence. Robert looked at Sarah for a long time. If I helped you learn those things, I'm glad. I want to learn more. Sarah, please, tell me about your operations. Robert shook his head. No. Why not? Because some stories shouldn't be told, but I can learn from them. You can learn from my mistakes, not from my successes. Sarah insisted. Then tell me about your mistakes. Robert took a long breath. My biggest mistake was fighting for too long. How is that a mistake? Because war changes people, and after a certain point there's no going back. You came back, did I? Sarah thought. I think you did. How do you know? Because you're still helping people. Robert smiled. Maybe you're right.
From that moment on, Robert occasionally began giving Sarah advice on tactical matters, leadership issues, and the military profession, but no one was aware of this because their conversations always took place in the corridors during cleaning. Sarah's grades began to improve. She started becoming more successful in tactical exercises. When her friends asked why, she said, "I'm studying hard." But the truth was the little tips Robert gave her about how to think, how to make decisions. Months passed. Sarah was approaching graduation. One day, she found Robert. "I want to thank you," she said. "For what?" "For everything. For what you taught me." Robert smiled. "I didn't teach you anything. You already knew it. I just helped you remember. When I graduate, what can I do for you? Pass on what you learned to others. Anything else?" Robert thought. "Remember, real strength is strength you don't have to display." "I'll remember that. One more thing." "What?" "If you ever find yourself in my position, don't forget the silence." "What do you mean?" "The best leaders are the ones who talk the least. They listen, observe, and act when necessary." Sarah nodded. "I understand." Graduation day arrived. Sarah graduated from West Point with honors. At the ceremony, her family and friends were there, but she was looking for only one person. She found Robert at the edge of the ceremony area. He was watching from a distance. Sarah approached him. "Thank you for coming. Wouldn't miss it. I want to ask you something." "Ask." "Where were you assigned when you first graduated?" Robert smiled. "Very far away. Very dangerous place. Were you scared?" "Yes." "Is that normal?" "Very normal. Fear keeps you alive. Any other advice?" Robert looked into Sarah's eyes. "Never forget where you came from. And never forget where you're going." "And where am I right now?" "At the beginning. The most beautiful place." Sarah smiled. "I'm so glad I met you." "Me too." At that moment, the ceremony music began. Sarah had to leave. "Will we see each other again?" she asked. "If your paths cross here again." Sarah ran to join her family. But when she turned back, Robert was no longer there. Years passed. Sarah Carter, her surname changed after marriage, was now a major. She had served in various positions, participated in successful operations, and was known for her leadership abilities. One day, she was attending a meeting at the Pentagon. Counterterrorism strategies were being discussed. During the meeting, old Delta Force operations came up. "Who developed these strategies?" Sarah asked. "Major General Robert Hayes," said the colonel leading the meeting. "A legendary man. But he disappeared after retirement." Sarah smiled. "He didn't disappear. He just chose silence." "Did you know him?" "Yes. He was my instructor." "Really? Where?" Sarah thought. "At West Point. But I didn't realize it at the time." After the meeting, Sarah called West Point. She wanted to find out if Robert was still working there. "I'm sorry," the secretary said. "Robert Hayes retired last year." "Where did he go?" "We don't know. He didn't leave an address." Sarah was sad. She thought she'd never see Robert again. But 5 years later, Sarah was now a colonel and was assigned as an instructor at West Point herself. On her first day, as she walked through the corridors, she remembered her old memories. When she reached the tactical classroom block, she saw a janitor, a young man, carefully cleaning the corridor. Sarah approached him. "Hello?" The young man looked up. "Hello, ma'am. What's your name?" "Marcus, ma'am." "How long have you been working here?" 3 months. Sarah smiled. "Do you like this job?" Marcus was surprised. "Ma'am, do you like your job?" "Yes, ma'am. It's quiet and peaceful." Sarah looked at Marcus more carefully. There was something familiar about his posture. "Were you in the military before?" Marcus stopped. "Yes, ma'am." "Which unit?" "Special Forces, ma'am." Sarah was surprised. "Special Forces? Why are you cleaning here?" Marcus shrugged. "I was looking for silence." Sarah understood. "Can I tell you a story?" "Sure, ma'am." "Years ago, there was a janitor here named Robert Hayes. He was also a former soldier like you. Actually, he was the founder of Delta Force." Marcus's eyes lit up. "You knew Robert Hayes?" "Yes, he was my instructor. He taught me a lot." "What did he teach you?" "That real strength comes from silence, that the best leaders are those who talk the least, and that true respect comes from strength you don't have to display." Marcus nodded. "He sounds like a wise man." "Very wise and very humble." Sarah paused. "Marcus, I want to ask you something." Yes, ma'am. If you want to help the students here, I can give you the opportunity. Not officially, but Marcus smiled. How can I help? Like Robert did, quietly, humbly. Marcus thought, that sounds like a good idea. Then we have a deal? Sarah walked away but stopped after a few steps and turned back. Marcus? Yes, ma'am. Robert had a favorite saying, legends die, but janitors just work. What do you think? Marcus smiled. I think we should keep working. Sarah nodded and walked away. When she stopped at the end of the corridor and looked back, Marcus was cleaning, just like Robert used to do, and at that moment she realized that Robert Hayes hadn't disappeared. He was still here, in every quiet action, every humble gesture, every lesson he taught. Because real legends don't die, they just continue to live within others. And in the corridors of West Point, a new silent instructor was on duty. Robert Hayes's legacy continued. The end. This story teaches us that true strength lies not in show, but in silence, that the greatest leaders are the most humble ones, and that the most valuable lessons come from unexpected places. Sometimes, a janitor can offer more valuable teachings than a general. Sometimes silence can be more powerful than thousands of words. And sometimes, the greatest heroes of the past are the quietest people of the present. Welcome to Tales of Valor, where forgotten warriors find their voice.